It's a good tune. Right, you got your intro, you ready to go? 3, 2, 1. Move the mic a wee bit.
I've done it.
Nice.
Welcome, fellow nerds, geeks and pop culture archaeologists to Mates, Movies and Malts, the only show where we take Easter eggs way more seriously than actual Easter. Today we are cracking open hidden secrets, decoding developer pranks and diving headfirst into digital rabbit holes that make nerd culture the gift that keeps on glitching. From screen rooms in retro games to cameos you missed because you blinked, this episode is packed tighter than a Marvel post-credit scene. So grab your magnifying glass, load up your save file and keep your eyes peeled. We're about to find out which Easter eggs are genius and which are just the digital version of a whoopee cushion. Let's get exploring.
Exploring, I love it. I get more and more nervous the further these intros go on, because I'm just like, because every time I've done it, I've had to redo it like 4 times, and I get like, you get so much further into it and you're doing so well, and then I'm like, oh no, he's going to go, and I get pure panicky.
On top of that, they won't have been able to tell, but your screen went dark.
Yeah,
near the
halfway through. The gift that keeps on glitching.
Not that I'm using a screen, obviously, that was all, you know.
Memorised,
Yeah.
just
Off the top of the dome.
Make eye contact.
How are we, gentlemen?
I'm good, man, how you doing?
Good, mate.
I'm doing really good. I'm looking forward to today's topic.
Yeah.
Aye, it's an interesting one. It's seasonal, topical.
Well, we're a little bit late, but
Yeah, they don't know that.
better late than never. Jesus has risen already.
Aye.
Maybe we just save this episode for next year. Just bank it.
It's the story of
Jesus,
this podcast.
Jesus rose on Sunday and then his number one fan died on Monday.
Wow. First and foremost, I want to give a special shout out to Erin Robb for the suggestion of this episode. I can't believe the 3 years never actually thought about doing an Easter egg.
I actually physically annoyed at us.
Yeah.
Aye.
That was very poor, but
I mean, that's low hanging fruit. That.
aye.
No, I mean,
Not taking any away for the suggestion you gave us.
no, good on her.
We'd have gotten there on year 3.
So, we are here to talk about Easter eggs, some chocolate, but mostly the pop culture references. So what is an Easter egg? For anybody who doesn't know, an Easter egg is a hidden reference, a joke, or any other detail that has been deliberately placed by a creator for the fans to enjoy. And that's what we're here to talk about this week.
It is, and interestingly, both Stefan and I did our homework this week in time, and then both of us forgot our notepads. So we're going to be winging some serious stuff here, but I'm sure we'll come out with a few crackers.
I remember the majority of it, but I did have a wee mini panic attack during your intro, because I was like, I can't remember my third choice for one of them. So hopefully that comes back over the course of the...
Fingers crossed, aye. If not, you'll just need to make up another one. Aye. But actually, let's crack on then. What do you want to talk about, Jordan?
Yes. So,
lined it up.
First thing we're going to talk about is the first Easter egg that you remember stumbling across. Do you remember where it was from, when it was you actually realised it? Because I'll put my hand on my heart, it wasn't until a few years ago I realised what an Easter egg actually was.
Yeah.
You've always kind of seen these things. I say a few years, it was a good few years.
Yeah.
I think I'm younger than I actually am. But these things, nobody really tells you what an Easter egg is. You kind of find it and then you fall down that rabbit.
I think at the early days as well, you maybe think, am I the only person that's noticed this? Like, is this a coincidence? Aye.
But they were just secrets in video games, or just like funny things that you notice in movies that didn't have that term. It's when you start looking back, and obviously we had to do that for this, that you realise, God, that would have counted. But also,
it was properly intentional.
I
think so, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I think it depends on the nature of the cameo.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing with the whole Easter egg thing is it's properly exploded over the last few years with the whole shared universe thing since the MCU and everything like that. But there's so many, and the filmmakers have been doing it since the start. Hitchcock.
Okay.
Sir Alfred Hitchcock. He used to do them all the time. Do you know what I mean? He just turned up in his own films or whatever else. So
I think he's credited with the very first one.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, there you go. So it goes all the way back, and I've got a few examples written down in my notepad in the other house.
Hopefully,
but I'll fingers crossed I'll remember.
Just to be clear, Peter doesn't own 2 houses. We're not in his holiday home.
No, not that you know about.
Not yet.
But so the earliest one that I can remember, and funnily enough, we spoke about this a couple of weeks, months, however long ago it was we recorded the Indiana Jones episode. And it's the Star Wars references in Indiana Jones. And what annoyed me is upon listening back to the Indiana Jones episode when we put it out, we were talking, because you were surprised by that, Stefan, you didn't know about that.
No.
And Jordan and I were obviously telling you about it, and R2D2 shows up, and C3PO, the kind of glyphs exactly that. But I actually forgot the most obvious one when we were talking about it, and it's the one that I noticed the first time I ever watched it, and it's that the club that they're in that he escapes from is called Club Obi-Wan. Then that's the actual name of the club, and then he runs out, you see the name, it's Obi-Wan. And again, watching it at the time, I don't know if I recognised that it was an intentional thing by the film, because when I'm watching Indiana Jones at 9, I'm not really up on my George Lucas knowledge, but I knew Obi-Wan was for Star Wars, and I'm like, oh, that's funny, it's called Obi-Wan. And that's the first one I remember clocking, you know.
What about you, Steph?
So the earliest one I can remember from a video game, obviously you wouldn't have realised at the time it was an Easter egg, it was a secret. First Mortal Kombat movie, the secret fight that you can get, Reptile, before it was actually Reptile.
Yeah.
So when that came out, I was very, very young. So this was more to do with the fact that my older brother had this, and people would come round to ours and we'd all play Mortal Kombat. And it was at school that, like, word started spreading that there was a secret fight. People were adamant that even, like, despite there only being Sub-Zero and Scorpion in the game, that there was a secret green ninja fight in a game, and people swore that they'd done it, and everyone else was calling them liars. So it was all this thing about, oh, how did you get it? How did you do it? I was like, I don't know how I did it. I just suddenly got it. And I remember being in Asda, and there was, you remember the gaming magazines?
Yes.
There was one there, and they talked about the Green Ninja. So I wanted to buy it, went home, and it was Darren, big cousin Darren, managed to
shout out to Mr. Slavin.
Yeah, Mr. Slavin. And he managed to do the requirements in order to get it, and it turned out it was real. And I thought that was like absolutely.
Can you remember what the requirements were? Was it like, did you not have to?
I looked it up again. So what you had to do was you had to get a flawless victory twice on the pit stage, and then end the second one with a fatality, with your character's special fatality. And if you did that, then you unlocked the fight with. It was a Green Ninja, and it is. Looking back, everyone was like, oh, it's the Reptile fight. It's not called Reptile. You get Scorpion's name is up, and he's got Scorpion and Sub-Zero's moveset.
I didn't remember that.
So that's looking back now, that would have been the earliest one that I came across. I
love
very,
it.
Very young.
Love it. Jordan?
The earliest one that I really kind of remember comes from a show that we talk about quite a lot. It was Friends.
Nice.
And it was Phoebe's twin sister, Ursula.
Aye.
So Ursula was in another TV show. It was Lisa Kudrow played the Ursula character. It was another TV show called Mad About You, which was a sitcom. And it was the same director who was doing it at the same time.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
A crossover. So
I do remember Mad About You, because it was Helen Hunt. That's kind of, and Paul Reiser kind of made her, and he was obviously quite famous at the time. So I do remember it. And then I remember the episode in Friends. I don't know if you're going to talk about it, where Helen Hunt as her character. Aye.
Mad About You.
Aye. That was like, that's a twofer.
But aye, that was really the first one I really kind of remember.
Love it.
But see, when you found it, so we talked about, obviously you've talked about Mortal Kombat, you've talked about Indiana Jones, I've talked about Friends. See, at the time, did it dawn on you that this was something that's deliberately been done, or was it further down the line?
It was definitely further down the line for me. I think once you realise that, with the Indiana Jones example, you realise it's the same filmmakers that are involved. You realise, right, obviously that's been done on purpose, because the other thing is as well, like, upon watching Indiana Jones when I was that size on whatever size Hinari TV we had at the time, like the 11-inch, the one that the button that went thunk like that to turn it on, right? You couldn't spot R2 and C3PO unless you were looking for it. So, but Obi-Wan was in big bright lighting letters. So if I'd have seen R2 and C3PO, I'd have known immediately. But it took me, I think, until a good bit later, when I was getting right into movies, getting right into collecting DVDs, watching the trivia tracks on DVDs and stuff like that, that I started to kind of really pick up that, do you know, these guys that make films, they're probably more geeky than me, and they've done this on purpose. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. I think they can trust me to handle this.
Don't give it three fuckwits, we go bridge.
Exactly.
I think that was that made me start thinking, I wonder if all video games have little secret levels or just like little things here and there. So it definitely like opened my eyes to that possibility, and I think it's to this day, anytime I have a video game, I have to explore every inch of every map.
Yeah.
Just to see if there's something there. That,
totally agree.
Obviously, it's like people will find, and that's, I think, with the explosion of the internet, like, if anyone finds one of these Easter eggs, they plaster it everywhere. So I think we've been slightly robbed of that feeling that you would have gotten if you would have just like found this, because everyone else finds them all the time. There's like entire websites and things like that dedicated to just these types of things, just Easter eggs in movies, TV shows, whatever. So it's kind of robbed us a wee bit of that feeling. We'll never have
joy.
that again. Yeah, that joy of just noticing something and getting to ask someone else, did you notice this? It means this. Because now it's just, I'll just be scrolling through TikTok and someone will tell me all 47 Easter eggs that were in the most recent.
Don't even play. It's a blessing, but because there's not a lot of time on my hands anymore.
Yeah, no.
Sometimes getting that is a wee bit of a benefit. It's a wee bit of a bonus.
I suppose that the flip side is as well, though, like all of us, and I would assume anybody else that kind of feels the same way we do about films and TV and games and whatever else, like, for example, The Last of Us 2, the season 2 is on the telly now, right? And it's spoiler daft on the internet, right? And so you can either go out your way to watch it as quickly as possible, or as soon as you see any sort of content related to that or the people in it or anything like that, you avoid it like the plague. So like if I'm playing through a game for the first time, I don't read anything about it until I've finished it. And if it's also the Easter egg thing definitely led to me, I'm not like a total completionist, right? Like my mate Jason, you guys know for down south, he's like, if he plays a game, even if he doesn't like it, he's got to 100% it before he can play another game. Whereas I only 100% the games I really like. And so things like God of War, riddled with Easter eggs and stuff like that, and I'll search every inch of that map and then I'll read about it afterwards. Do you know what I mean? But I try and avoid stuff while I'm in it, so that I can still kind of capture that and find things for myself, you know.
I'm pretty sure your wife would describe you as a completionist, but
I don't know, we did have to go through IVF.
Back in. Do you think the Easter eggs are just for the fans, or do you think they enhance storytelling in any way?
I like this question, Steve.
I don't think they should enhance storytelling. I don't think Easter eggs should be in any way required to understand what's going on. They're supposed to just be a fun little thing for fans that pay not too much attention, but for people that notice that thing. It's not supposed to, I don't think it should necessarily lead to anything. I don't think it should be a hint that a character's going to get introduced down the line or something like that. It's supposed to just be like a nice wee thing. Like Marvel, they're the obvious example because they're like full of them now, and there'll be the number on a house is the number of the comic that introduced that character that's going to be in this movie. That kind of stuff, that's fine for the people.
It's really that's niche, nice. Though it's super niche.
Super niche. It's happened about 7 or 8 times now.
I think they're more like, they are Easter eggs, but they're more like super obscure clues. When you compare it to the examples that we're given, that like, oh well, there's Lisa Kudrow playing her sister that was in another show, or that's there's fine. Club Obi-Wan in India. Whereas, for example, one that I've seen this week, and it's not, well, it's potentially a spoiler, so I'll try and avoid talking about it, but in Daredevil Born Again, exactly what you said there, there's a door number that relates to an issue of a comic. Have you seen this one online?
I've still watched
episode 2. So, well, there's a door number that's in the kind of key bit right at the start of the series, that is implying that may not still be the reality in season 2. Right, so I've tried really hard to not spoil what I mean.
I know what you're talking about.
Right.
The finale seems to kind of undermine that.
Maybe,
like that theory, and that's the other thing that I was going to say. I don't mind people using Easter eggs to overthink things. Like the example I was going to give was WandaVision.
Yeah.
In WandaVision, the whole thing that kept coming out after every single episode was Mephisto confirmed. Every single episode. Oh my god, they saw this, and if you add up these numbers and then take away this, it comes up to 666. Mephisto confirmed. Just total nonsense. And that's fine if you want to overanalyze and try to.
That's just clickbait.
It's when people got angry that they were wrong. The Marvel lied to me because they made me think this.
Well, I mean, that's just
that starts to wind me up.
If you do that sort of stuff, though, you're just an idiot. Like,
there should just be an understanding that Easter eggs are just fun little clues and don't add to the story. That's my position.
The problem with Marvel, so I've got a question specifically about Marvel, but the problem with Marvel is they just shoehorn so many things in. It gets people's hopes up, especially if they reference a character that you really fucking love, or you're quite passionate about, you think it's going to happen. Again, I mean, look, when we talk about does it enhance the storytelling or is it just for the fans, I do think there's a bit of both involved.
Agreed.
But I think the issue is when people start creating all these wild theories and they start fucking fires on the internet and people are getting really hyped and then the rug just gets pulled out from underneath you effectively. And
again, I don't think that's...
It leads to raised expectations and then eventual disappointment.
That's the reason why I have fell out of love with Marvel, that and the fact that a lot of stuff's just been dross in general.
I think that's more of a the general overall quality of, I know we've been down a bit of a Marvel rabbit hole here, but the overall quality has fallen since Endgame pretty drastically. Now don't get me wrong, there's some real highlights in there. I don't think for one second that Easter eggs and hints and clues and stuff like that are in as fan service, that I don't think that the writers have got any responsibility to the toxic fandom. I think that's just what that is. It's toxic fandom deciding, oh well, they said like, oh, Namor was on the screen in Avengers, so he's going to be in, and then he wasn't in until Black Panther 2. But actually, it's interesting because you've kind of went down the middle. I think it's a bit of both. You've said that you don't think it should. I think it absolutely enhances storytelling. And I think that I agree with what you say. I don't think that you want to have a story that hinges upon tiny little details, but I do think that you get a lot more out of it, especially when you are like attached to characters or you're right involved in that specific kind of world or saga or whatever it is, because there's so many examples and you do sit and root through them and you get a lot out of finding them and stuff like that. And I think part of the fun of being a geek is predicting what's maybe going to come, and then if you get something right, it's brilliant. If you get it wrong, then fair enough. But I think that the whole world building thing and planting seeds for people to try and kind of understand, I think it's brilliant, and I think it makes you get a lot more out of the things that you're watching than if it never ever happened ever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll be curious to see if any of our like top 3 examples are stuff that like added to the story or just enhanced the experience.
Yeah,
I think that would be the difference I would make. Is it enhancing the experience of watching that movie, or is it adding to the story of the overall narrative?
Yeah,
and I would.
I like it, and I've got one example that I think will win that point, and it was my number one.
So my number one would also lean quite heavily into that as well. So
I bet you would get the same one. Any money?
Possibly, we'll see.
Well, save it for later.
Do you think Easter eggs are becoming too mainstream, or do you think that some creators are still playing the long game? They're still putting, kind of really creative ones in, really clever ones in, and it's not just here's an Easter egg, here's another one, here's an Easter egg, here's another one over here. Do you know what I mean?
I think there's been lots of examples of too much like fan service. Do you know what I mean? Like the best example I can always come up with, right, and it drives me nuts when you see some podcasters talking about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 and trying to argue that it's the best. And I loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. The overall film is an absolute shit show. It just was a trailer for they wanted to set up their shared universe to compete with the MCU, and so it was just all Easter eggs, all fan service. Oh, here's this character, here's that character, and outside of the chemistry of the two main leads, they forgot to actually tell a story in the film.
Yeah.
And so I think there's examples like that, but for the most part, I think that I don't think they're becoming too mainstream. I think it depends on the level of fandom that you have as to whether you would even notice them. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the piece. I think they're a really, really cool little part of storytelling.
I think there's really good ways of doing it. Like Tarantino's quite good at doing it. Like Red Apple Cigarettes.
Yeah.
There's one of my top 3.
There's all that stuff which is really clever, and he does it really well. It's just all very subtly placed, and it's not alert. Here's an Easter egg.
Exactly.
It's just nice and subtle, and it plays out throughout his universe. Like, that's
exactly.
a really good way of doing it. But whereas I'm going to come back to Marvel again, and it's just fucking boom, 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 all the time, just to try and draw people in. Like you said, it's clickbait, but it ends up turning into rage bait.
Yeah,
and it turns people against them.
I also feel like, and again, don't want to spend the entire thing talking about Marvel, but Marvel have fallen into that trap of using it as an easy win.
Yeah.
It's just it gets people hyped in the cinema. You see these like cinema experiences, people are like recording themselves as they're watching it, and all they do is just like mention a character's name, and it's like, oh, they didn't do anything.
Chicken Jackie.
But I think you're also now living in a world that's very different when it comes to these types of stories being made in comparison to when it started, because the MCU's changed everything.
Yeah.
It's now 17 years since Iron Man came out and Incredible Hulk came out, and we're now in a world where all of these characters are far more mainstream. So when Iron Man turns up at the end of Incredible Hulk, it's only really people like us that were like, oh my god, Iron Man's in this movie, what's going on? Whereas now everybody knows Iron Man and everybody knows the Hulk.
That was before people really knew that cutscenes weren't really that.
No, exactly, post credits.
Credit scenes, they were about, but they weren't. People now still sit. And
they wait for them.
Nothing to do with Marvel to see, just in case there is an end credit scene.
Do you know, I would be curious to know, like going way back, because obviously I think we've already mentioned Alfred Hitchcock was the first person to be credited with doing these things, and that was just a small cameo of himself. I'd be curious to know how often the Easter egg thing, even though they weren't dubbed that at the time, how often those happened across movies, how many directors were doing the Tarantino thing of putting a signature in. I've got another example, I hope nobody else spoils it, because I'm saving it for my top 3 otherwise. Of just someone just putting in just something, just a little nod specifically for the super fans, to see if they notice it, just to see if they catch on. It becomes a running joke with people who are loyal to that director.
But there should be a ban on putting on the internet, but
you reckon?
Aye, because as soon as someone sees it, it'll be online straight away. But it should be a case of, remember, like when people were going to see Infinity War and stuff, and there was the letter for the Russo brothers. Loads of people are really looking forward to this. Please don't spoil it by putting on it. There should be some sort of disclaimer.
The worst example I ever had of that was, and again we're a good few years on now that we can probably touch on it. At the end of Solo, the Han Solo prequel. It was really good, by the way. You should watch it. It's genuinely good.
He was quite good. I thought he was
I'd have him back, no bother at all. But at the end of that, there's a post-credit scene where a major character from the not the expanded universe, but the overall universe comes back.
You can't just say who it was.
Well, no, because he's going to watch it maybe. So Darth Maul shows up, right? And
both halves of
but the day it came out, somebody just posted that on Facebook in the middle of it. Darth Maul turns up at the end for no other reason than to just ruin it for people. So
see you next Tuesday.
Exactly. But I think like, coming back to the Easter egg piece, I would be very, very surprised if every filmmaker doesn't do it. And there'll be ones that just do it for themselves, ones that use a specific piece of music in every song, or a person's wearing the same belt in every film, or something. It'll be stuff like that. And then it became more fan servicey as fandom became a thing. But I bet you any money, if you go through old westerns, like there'll be hints between them all. I bet you Jimmy Stewart, there'll be a song called George Lasso's The Moon in a film he was in. Do you know what I mean? It'll go all the way back. I'd be astonished if it doesn't.
I really do like it when actors or actresses do it, but for personal reasons, sort of for their own kids. So like, you've not seen Dune, haven't you? You've seen Dune?
Yep.
So Jason Momoa's character, so his fighting style, he only put that in because it was the same self-defence that his daughter was learning. So that was just a nod just
Love
purely
that.
for having his daughter.
That's awesome.
I would really like ones like that, really sentimental and wholesome ones.
Yeah.
But I like shit like that.
Aye, love it.
Favourite Easter egg?
This is chocolate now we're talking about.
Chocolate.
My favourite, I think mine's just too weird, so I'll let one of you go first.
What is it?
Something French.
No, it's something.
Ferrero Rocher.
It's not. Do you know there's mint in it? But no, it's an Easter egg that I distinctly remember existing, but other people have told me.
Mate, this is going to be so weird, by the way. Is it Mint Mingles?
No,
because that was mine.
Everybody remembers Mingles.
I've asked loads of people that and they never remember them. But Mint Mingles done an Easter egg where the chocolate tasted like the main Mint Mingle, and it was the best thing I've ever ate in my life.
To make Pete's point, I don't know what Mint Mingles are.
There you go.
No, this was After Eights. There was an After Eight Easter egg years and years ago where the actual egg itself was just the After Eight. It was the whole thing. It was one massive one with the cream in it. And I remember that, and we were talking about Easter eggs in my work, and I brought that one up, and everyone was just like, "No, I think you've made that up. I think you've dreamt that." So, and I was just, what a weird fucking hill to die on. I'm trying to share like a beloved
childhood memory.
You're just like, nah, you're full of shit.
It's so funny, but like your childhood dream Easter egg was the dark chocolate with mint fondant.
I love After Eights. I love After Eights.
So the other amazing.
I would sit with the box and I'd hide under the table. No wonder I'm fat. Pre-diabetic piece of shit.
I used to love Mentola. Remember Mentola before they became, the end they were mint munchies and then they just became after eights in a packet. Different class, man.
You're way older.
Do you know what?
I know.
This like nothing to do with this topic, but the most frustrating thing that anyone in my family ever did. Do you ever have people that just took the chocolate out and left the fucking wrapper in? That drives me fucking nuts. See when you think there's some left and it's just the wrap.
Do you remember what was even worse?
That would ruin my day.
Remember what was even worse? Going into your grand's house and pulling out the Quality Street and it was a sewing kit. Remember that? Or it was full of buttons or whatever. Oh, honest to God, man, full of fags. Anyway, my grand smokes. Mine was the mint mingles, but again, nobody ever remembers it. I'm partial to a good old fashioned cream egg, and nowadays I like the Lindor one. Lindor, man.
Fucking snob. Todd Mother, what's your favourite Easter egg?
I quite like a cream egg one as well.
Cream egg.
Being honest, I like to keep it in the fridge. It's got to be nice and.
So you can eat the fondant with a spoon?
Well, no, not the cream egg one. I like
How do you eat yours?
Any Easter egg, I like it to be in the fridge. I don't like a soft Easter egg. I like it to be in the fridge and it cracks.
Do you ever remember old Celebrity Juice, like back when it was good before it became shit?
I never watched it much, but
Rufus Hound was still on it and David Guetta was on it.
Right at the start.
Keith Lemon made the comment, I'll take you back to Mablet and I'll lick you out like a cream egg. And David Guetta couldn't understand it, and Rufus Hound, without missing a beat, translated it in perfect French, and he was fucking killing us.
Amazing.
That part of that, that's hilarious.
If ever three guys looked like they all could be related, but through like interrelations, like David Guetta, Rufus Hound and Keith Lemon, that's three branches of the same very weird family tree, innit? Well, exactly, they're all the same. Anyway,
the favourite Easter egg, you didn't give me any time to think about that.
I know, but I put you on the spot.
When I was wee, the thing that I loved getting was you got an egg in a mug. Like you got a mug with a chocolate egg in it.
So
then you had a mug afterwards.
Funny you should say that, because my favourite Easter egg was any Cadbury's one that came with the
in the
associated mug. So if it was cream egg, you get a cream egg mug or flake or whatever. That was, I don't know why. There's just
I remember the Twiddle one as well.
About that.
Oh, that was good getting a mug.
Any cheap shite Easter egg, the cheaper the chocolate, the better.
There's something weird about
So
cheap
good,
tasting Easter egg chocolate.
Yeah.
It's like the same chocolate you get in restaurants when they don't want to fork out for the mints.
Yes. After it's.
Well, aye. That's probably my favourite bit of the podcast so far. Any Easter eggs?
Right, so Easter eggs in top 3. Let's go for it. No particular order. Stefan, go first.
One of the ones that I noticed first time that I ever saw this movie, it was in I Am Legend.
Yep, this
Batman
one.
versus Superman. The poster. This was way before that movie appeared and disappointed everyone.
Yep.
At the time, seeing that was amazing, and then the whole thing afterwards was, does that mean something? Is that is it actually going to happen? Well, what a great
I remember
idea.
it clear as day.
So yeah, that's one of my favourite ones, just because of how hyped I was afterwards.
Funnily enough,
ruined the rest of the movie for me because I couldn't pay attention.
Funnily enough, Batman v Superman was the most disappointed I've ever been in a film, probably since the second half of I Am Legend. Because the first hour of I Am Legend is a perfect film, and then they show you the monsters and they just ruin it all. Aye.
Really pale dudes.
Aye, and then Will Smith kills himself for no reason. Like he does absolutely.
It depends on which version you saw.
But do you know they refilmed that, and then apparently they're doing a sequel, and it's based off of the ending that they didn't release.
Yeah.
And it's Michael B. Jordan. Have you seen that?
I've heard about it, but
that's actually happening. So it's like, you know how the ending it was in the cinemas. That's not the ending, right? So this is what actually happened with Will Smith, and then here's his wee boy.
That's actually quite good marketing, because now folk are going to need to go and buy the DVD.
Exactly. And go back to remembering times before Batman versus Superman let us all down.
Yeah. It could be the movie you wanted it to be.
I wish.
Pedro, one of your top 3?
Back to the Future. And it was just wee silly. There was quite a few in Back to the Future, but the one that I really loved is after the first film, at the start of it in the car park with the Libyans, it's the Twin Pine Mall.
Yeah.
And in his escape, Marty goes over one of the pine trees when he goes back in time. Yep. He goes back over it, and then when you go back to 1985, it's the Lone Pine Mall. Yeah. That's one that again I noticed in Back to the Future. Obviously, it's one of my all-time favourite films, but I think that was genius.
Tremendous.
Very good.
One of my first ones most of mine come from video games, but it's Far Cry 4.
Okay, not played it.
So Far Cry 4, set in India. You are captured by the kind of bad guy, and you're taken to his palace. There's a bit of a cutscene, and he says, "Don't move, I'll be back. Just you enjoy the food." So at that point, everybody gets up and runs away, escapes the palace. But if you actually sit and wait for 15 minutes, the end credit scenes come up and the game finishes. I think that's fucking brilliant.
That's genius. I like that.
That's quite good. I like that.
Fuck you. I tell you, I'm a simple man. Simple pleasures.
Well,
I like that.
My next one's not much better. It's GTA San Andreas. This is part of exploring every inch of every video game map that I'm in. And I can't remember the name of the bridge. There's one massive bridge in that game. If you can somehow get on it, which is a pain in the arse to try and get, if you can get all the way to the very top of it, there's a sign that says, "There's no Easter eggs here, go away."
Oh, I remember that one.
It's 4 years.
I thought it was the heart of Liberty City.
No, I knew that one as well. But this one in particular, just because, like, I'm sure you can see there's a sign, and you're just getting closer and closer. It's like, oh, what's it going to... And then it says...
there's nothing here for you.
As well, it's not a perfect circle. I'm sure it's oval shaped, so you do think it is like an actual Easter egg.
Right.
You get the jetpack, you can get it pretty quickly.
I think... did I have the jetpack to get it? I can't remember. But I just remember that one. That one always just sticks out in my head. It was just like...
And just imagine you spending...
It was almost just like, I will... Like, fuck off, go play the actual game.
I can just imagine you spending like days and weeks of your childhood trying to BMX up the bridge when there's a jetpack cutting about.
Stupid wee permit.
The jetpack you needed. The jetpack's a late game mission that gets you the jetpacks and
cheats, which are also Easter eggs. Easter cheese.
Easter cheat. Fair enough.
Next for me. Oh, this is so annoying because I'd highlighted ones in my book and stuff like that. I would say Stan Lee in the MCU.
Yeah.
And this is the one that I feel kind of challenges your point earlier on a wee bit, because eventually they did bring it full circle, and it was the Stan Lee's a watcher, and it's his same apparition throughout, and it's not, the story doesn't hinge on that, it doesn't change anything whether or not he is a watcher, but I just thought it was the perfect little bit of fan service and a beautiful tribute to him.
I love all the Stan Lee cameos, but was it confirmed in movies that it was?
It was confirmed by the Russos.
Right, in a tweet.
Well, I don't know what format they used, but I know that the Russos have confirmed it. But when was the last time you watched a movie and Spielberg came out and said, right, see, this and this is all part of the story, and this isn't it?
Indiana Jones 4.
Funnily enough, I've got one from that later on.
How that works.
Aye, this is why this film was such an absolute car crash.
An IOU.
But I think Stan Lee, and I think it's the probably the greatest repeated kind of Easter egg ever created. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant.
And it was nice because it was never like overbearing, but eventually it became that fun thing. How they'll use Stan Lee.
Could you pick out your favourite Stan Lee cameo? Because bear in mind, it's not just MCU as well, remember? He was in the X-Men films, he was in the Spider-Man films.
He was in
He was in Mallrats.
I really like that's not like it is a cameo, but he's in for a while. He's good.
It's not so much.
What?
Mallrats is part of the MCU.
It's fine, hard to run. Just can't wait for James Bob to shoot.
My favourite one is Tony Stank.
It's a good one. Tony's here.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Thank everybody.
I like that one.
That was my favourite.
That was the end of Civil War, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm still going to go with Mallrats just for the...
Well, no, give us one that exists in the canon of the MCU though, or the Marvel universe.
Does the original Daredevil, the Ben Affleck Daredevil count?
Aye, Elektra's now in the MCU, isn't she?
I'm fairly certain he's the one that goes to step out onto the road and...
I wouldn't even remember
it. Kid stops him with
that's good.
That one. I think that's nice.
I didn't even know that because I've not watched it since it came out. I watched it the first time and then never swore I'd never watch it again.
I know he was in all the Spider-Man movies, but I can't, for some reason, I can remember Bruce Campbell being in those movies, but I can't remember where Stan Lee shows up.
Well, funnily enough, my favourite one comes from The Amazing Spider-Man.
First one?
Aye. When Andrew Garfield and the Lizard are fighting in the school, and it switches to him and he's got his headphones on, and it's like, he's like the janitor, the cleaner, the librarian, whatever he is, and he's pottering about doing books or whatever else, and the Lizard and Spider-Man are flying behind him and stuff, and he can't hear it because he's got his headphones in. And it reminded me of that face-off scene and stuff like that. I thought that was absolutely brilliant, and again added something to the movie overall with just a wee cameo. Thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Fair enough, I like it.
Mine's is going back to video games again, and we're in Fallout 4 this time.
Okay.
4 seem to be. And this ties back in with the last episode we done. There is
I've seen this
a
one.
big blue Smeg fridge at one point, and you can see inside it there's a skeleton, and it's Indiana Jones.
In the fridge, because what Fallout New Vegas was applying was the logic of
you can't hide in a fridge
and survive a nuclear explosion.
I thought you said Fallout 4.
I4?
Nah.
No, it's not New Vegas.
I thought that was the same thing.
No.
Nah, it's
okay.
4. Cool. I really like that one. I thought it was a really nice wee nod.
Yeah,
It makes light of the fact that would never would have happened.
Mhm.
You never would have survived that shit.
Exactly.
We spoke about that last time.
Video games always do great wee ones like that.
Oh,
Mhm.
So much thought goes into these.
Yeah.
They're always really good. I've got another one, but since we're still technically doing the top 3, I'll just say this one.
sure.
anyway.
He's got an honourable mention.
Oh,
I've got an honourable mention for afterwards, but no. Sam Raimi uses his car that his dad bought.
The yellow
in
one.
every single one of his movies.
That's class. I didn't know that.
So he used it in Evil Dead trilogy, the Spider-Man trilogy, Drag Me to Hell. It's in Multiverse of Madness at one point.
Yeah.
I think the most famous one, I think you would maybe possibly remember it. Spider-Man trilogy was Uncle Ben's car. So it's in all 3 films. It's featured quite prominently. Yeah, he does that because one, I think it's a touching tribute to his dad originally, but then it just became a fun thing for people that follow Sam Raimi's movies. It was, that's it, exactly.
So the name of the film and the film's like,
Not at all.
So yeah, I just think that's a nice touch. That's one of those ones that's probably, if the internet didn't exist, very few people would have ever realised.
Aye, 100%.
And it's not one of these ones where it's not like an M. Night Shyamalan, because I hate those ones. Just him putting himself into these movies very often in like a really important role for the film. Just always winds me up. That's not like fan service or like a clever Easter egg. You just want to have like a really important part in your movie, and you're not a very good actor.
He's up there with Tarantino for that.
Aye.
Thankfully Tarantino's eased away from it as much now. But it really sticks out like a sore thumb. Shyamalan's terrible for it.
Shyamalan's really bad for it.
Third of the top 3.
yes.
This is a crossover one that I really love because they've done it reciprocally. Star Wars and E.T.
Oh, I thought you were going to go somewhere else.
No, so in E.T. there's a small child dressed up as Yoda.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in the Phantom Menace in the Senate, the E.T. clan are in one of the bays, and I just always loved that, and I love the fact that it was like paying tribute to each other, because obviously it's Lucas and Spielberg with their big kind of whole love in, and they're my 2 favourites, so all for that.
They definitely
That's
take
a nice one.
off like arrows, don't they?
Absolutely.
100%, aye.
No.
They do in my head.
Wow, whammy. My last one is a book, and I'm hoping you'll allow me to have this, but it's Ready Player One. The whole premise of the story is an Easter egg hunt, and it's just littered with fucking pop culture and game references. It's like you can't turn a page without there being another wee snippet here and another wee snippet there. The film, if you've seen it, I'm assuming you've seen it.
I've seen it.
Again, it's obviously not an accurate.
No, but it's good. The film, I like the film. I think it's underrated.
The film's brilliant, but the amount of references that are in it as well, I love it. I think it's brilliant. I love it when they do that, because it's got that Back to the Future vibe. It feels like Back to the Future, but there's so many good references in it about games and movies. It's obviously what the whole story's about, so that is my number 1.
Are they doing a sequel to that?
Ready Player 2.
Is that actually happening?
So apparently the film is happening. The book is really good. I've read that as well.
Yeah, I've heard the book is really good, but possible spoilers, he turns into a bit of a villain, does he not?
He's a bit of an arsehole.
Right, okay.
Because obviously there's now another Easter egg within the Easter egg, effectively.
Okay.
But it's a really good story.
But Player 2 was always an arsehole, that's why you always gave him the shite controller.
The one with the dodgy wire.
Exactly, aye. Or the fake one, the one that wasn't actually from the console, and it was like big knuckles and all that. Of course it was.
Violet, now she gets that one. Just very quickly, Stefan heard earlier on, but I taught Violet how to play rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, so nice.
She did call it rock, paper, scissors, shoe, but she created her own new thing.
Love it.
So she created Pickle. Pickle pickle beats paper because it gets the paper wet, but everything else beats pickle. I think that's fucking brilliant.
That is good.
Man.
That is good. I like that.
That's a tangent now. Sorry.
That is.
I like it, but I like it.
Always welcome.
Honourable mentions.
Did you do your third or your three?
Yeah,
You
I've done my
did?
three.
Didn't remember. Sorry.
3 and a full.
Honourable mention. So this is the annoying thing because in my notepad I had dozens of them, right? And but I've got a few that come to mind, like in a film, movie, and a few video games as well. But a couple of examples. So Back to the Future, continuing on. The whole thing about Back to the Future is it's a film about trying to undo paradoxes. Like that's what the film is, right? And I loved it. I saw this phrased this way online when I was kind of doing some research and stuff, and I didn't actually know this. But Hill Valley is a paradox in itself because a hill and a valley are the opposite of each other.
You can't have because it would just be flat.
So it's a hill valley, exactly. And I just thought that was a lovely little Easter egg which I'd never noticed. Do you know what I mean? You get any examples, Steve? We'll carry on.
Yeah, I had a couple. One from a video game. I'd never actually experienced this because I didn't play it. But in Witcher 2, apparently you come across someone dressed as an assassin from Assassin's Creed, and they're like splatted on the ground next to a hay bale. And apparently Geralt, when he walks in, I guess they'll never learn. I just thought that's quite clever. It's just like where people just kind of paying homage and just having like a funny wee joke at the expense of a rival, essentially. But I thought that was quite good. The other one was, I was actually going to ask you, because obviously we mentioned Red Apple. That was originally going to be one of my three, and then I had to pull one out of Malts. But
and come up with a different answer.
But Big Kahuna Burger, did that ever appear in any of the other movies? Because Tarantino prides himself on world building. I know Red Apple is the most famous one because he purposely puts it in. A bunch of the characters smoke that brand. Big Kahuna Burger is just such a great setup.
I'm sure Big Kahuna Burger was in Jackie Brown.
I feel like you walk past the Big Kahuna Burger in the mall, and I'm sure you see them with Big Kahuna Burger and Jackie Brown.
It's part of such a great scene. I feel like he wouldn't have been able to help himself once he came up there.
They don't reference it. It's just the
you just go past that. It's just there.
A bag with food in it. It's just like somebody.
But that's the point, though. Is like, in fact, at one point, is there not a fast food bag full of money?
Yes.
And it's a Big Kahuna bag, I think.
Ah, right, okay.
But the interesting thing is, you made a really good point earlier on talking about, well, you can have an Easter egg that's quite subtly there, or one that's just shoved right in your face, and that's exactly like, so Red Apple cigarettes is mentioned all the time because people are ordering them, right? Or you see a billboard for it in Kill Bill or something like that. But it's subtle. It's not like every 2 minutes is an advert for it, or it's not like he's launched a cigarette brand called Red Apple cigarettes and he's trying to plug it. But I think that's a really good example. The other one I love about that as well, which I didn't know until literally very recently, but as having a Frenchman here, this potentially would help, depending on how recently you've been talking to your family. What is green apple in French?
Green apple?
Red apple, sorry.
Rouge pomme de terre.
Is that right?
Oh, rouge is red. So...
Do you not say red apple?
Is it green apple or red apple? It's red apple, so red apple.
Right.
Rouge pomme. Rouge pomme.
Right. And in The Hateful Eight, which I've still never watched, by the way, but in The Hateful Eight, somebody, a French character or something like that, orders red apple in French, which I just think such a lovely little nod. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you?
8 times Big Kahuna appeared in movies, not just Tarantino.
There you go.
Not just Tarantino movies. Other people just pay homage.
That's his best mate.
Yeah, that's his best pal.
So what did it say there?
Was it
Sin City?
Did Robert Rodriguez do
Sin City, Desperado?
He did Desperado. Do you know? I for some reason I was convinced that the beer that they drink in the pub that Steve Buscemi goes in and orders, and they make a joke about it. I think he calls it Piss Warm Django or something like that. I thought that was like a Robert Rodriguez doing that type of thing, and that beer was going to pop. And no, he was just taking the piss out of an actual beer. It's just
love it,
insulting like a local beer.
Love it.
I was like, fucking hell, that's petty.
Just on the subject of Desperado, Danny Trejo. So I think about him. So he has it in his contract that so whenever he plays a villain, he needs to die because he wants to learn that being a bad guy doesn't always pay off.
I'm sure I read that somewhere as well.
It's not an Easter egg, but it's a wee
it's just made me think of I don't know if don't know if you would call it an Easter egg, but it's certainly a little kind of self-referential thing that did forward the plot in Breaking Bad. Do you remember Danny Trejo's name? Tortuga. And then how they kill him is they blow him up, basically cut his head off and put his head on a turtle like that. Like it's the cartel. Don't laugh at the cartel.
Fair enough. Right, okay.
Stefan laughed at that on his own. It's nothing to do with Jordan or the pod mother.
Another one for me, we spoke about it in an episode that's not came out yet, is The Last Action Hero.
Oh yeah.
When they go back, they go to the video shop, and he's like, no, you're this actor, you were in this film, and it's the thing for Terminator T2 Judgment Day.
And it's
Sylvester Stallone.
It's Sly.
Like,
oh yes.
Genius. Absolute genius.
Tremendous.
Does
also
it
fueled the bit of the feud that was going during the 90s with Eto as well.
Aye.
I feel like it probably shouldn't count and it probably won't count, but actors just constantly doing the same thing in their movies, I feel like that's almost bordering on like maybe not Easter egg.
I suppose if it's intentional.
Yeah, like Tom Cruise always has to run in his movies.
Yeah.
But my favourite one recently that I've noticed is no matter what movie John Bernthal's in, he always has to tell you something.
Aye. Let me tell you something. Funnily enough, but I noticed that the other night. We went and seen that film I was telling you about, The Amateur, and he turns up. He's very, very brief, kind of almost a cameo to be fair. And he turns up in it and he says it in that as well.
He's almost
let me tell you something.
At this point.
Aye. It's very, very good. There's a guy now that's doing quite well on socials and stuff like that, and he's just doing every Daredevil episode, and it's just John Bernthal, it's him dressed up as a Punisher, just going, let me tell you something, Red. And then it breaks to Charlie Cox, and he's just it's really good, man. But a few other examples. I had an absolute belter from Friends in the Good Place, right? So in the Good Place in the early days, I think it was season 1, they're talking about who's in the good place and who's in the bad place, or who would deserve to be there or whatever, and Michael's saying, I mean, you can't say all the friends deserve to be in the bad place. I mean, sure, like Ross and Monica and definitely Chandler and Joey and but you can't say Phoebe. You can't. I mean, not Rachel, but no, not Phoebe. Phoebe doesn't deserve to be in the bad place. And then in the last couple of episodes of the Good Place, Lisa Kudrow turns up and she's in the good place, and she's bloody Aristotle or something like that, which I thought was a really nice one.
So we're going to play a wee game.
Right.
I can't play because I've already seen the answers.
Cool.
So in this, I want you to tell me, is this a real Easter egg or was it made up?
Okay.
In Halo 3, you can find a hidden birthday message from a developer to his wife.
True.
False.
True.
Damn.
In The Dark Knight, the Joker's mask has the same design as the one worn in The Mask starring Jim Carrey.
False.
So the Dark Knight during the bank robbery.
It's false, because I remember this.
That's false.
That's false.
Aye, the masks were there was something behind it. The masks that they use, they were from something, or they were, and I'm going to need to try and remember that.
Are you getting that confused with like the whole story of the Mike Myers?
No, the James T. Kirk, the William Shatner. No, it's a different thing. They were something, but it'll come to me.
Is that old people's masks?
No, don't think so.
In Red Dead Redemption 2, there's a hidden time traveller who disappears if you try to shoot him.
Disappears if you try and shoot him?
Yeah.
I know that there's a thing about a guy that people think is a time traveller.
Yeah.
I'll just say yes.
I'll say yes as well, but I never completed the game.
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
Slowest game of all time, man.
Just if you try and shoot him.
I know, we never causes you any issues. Why would you shoot him? Some people are arseholes.
You're the guy who plays
these games.
red lights and Grand Theft Auto, aren't you?
Aye.
Pay the prostitutes and don't kill them. Sucker.
I mean, to be fair, it's just living his life, isn't it?
In The Office, every time Jim pranks Dwight, there is a hidden beat in the background.
True.
False. It's false.
That
would have been good if it was true.
I'd like that.
I feel like that's one of those ones I would have known.
In Finding Dory, there is a cameo from Riley from Inside Out at the aquarium.
True.
True. I know there's a little kid that looks like it.
That is true.
Yeah.
How good is Inside Out, by the way?
Inside Out's amazing.
Very good.
So good, man. Right, okay, so in this one, I want you to guess the reference. So I will describe a scene or an Easter egg, and you must guess the movie, game, or show that it came from.
Okay.
Right, okay.
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 This one starting off quite light. This film features R2-D2 and C-3PO hidden in ancient hieroglyphics.
That's Raiders.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. A game lets you type XYZZY into a command line and an old school reference to a text adventure. So it's obviously a game, can you guess the game this is from?
XYZZY. Yeah, command, and
This
it's.
going to be one of the Metal Gear Solid ones. That'll be my guess. I
I
don't
don't know
know.
why you're asking me, I've got the answer.
I know, no, just, that's my guess.
Metal
I
Gear.
don't know. Yeah.
It's XYZZY, and it's a reference to an old.
Aye, so when you put that in,
Mhm.
you type that command in, an old school reference to a text adventure.
I feel like I know this, but
like
I'm not going to get it.
Yeah,
So
I think
go
that
on.
must be like a PC game then.
It started on PC,
Mhm.
it's now console, and it's doing very well in other places.
I feel like I should know it, but I'll guess The Sims.
Minecraft.
Nah.
Oh, damn it.
In this show, you will find the numbers 4, 8, 15.
Lost.
This beloved RPG contains a sword named Excalibur, which always deals 1 damage on purpose.
RPG, 1 damage on purpose.
Oh god, who would take
God,
a
it's-
piss like that?
It's got to be. What? It's just the one. It's not Dungeons and Dragons. It's bloody World of Warcraft. No.
Is this going to, I don't know, Legend of Zelda maybe?
No, you were you were on the closer tracks. It was the Final Fantasy series.
Uh,
And that was it for the games and the questions, everybody. Thanks for
Like it.
playing.
that you asked the one about.
Mention,
Go on.
myself.
Is it the
was-
sword one?
No, it's not the
Oh,
sword
right, okay,
one.
I've got a good sword
It's
one.
actually just, it's very random. It's Shazam, the Batman
Mhm.
doll that he throws during one of the fights. I really like that one because of what it kind of implies, because in the rest of that universe it's implied that Batman is, one, a lot of people don't think he's real, and two, people that do think he's real think he's an evil like murderer. So but someone is still making toys about him. That
Mhm.
seems like a mental
Yeah,
choice to build your company around.
agreed.
There's also the Superman toys on next day as well, so it's BVS.
Uh-huh.
Shit, I missed that.
Mm.
Alright.
The,
I only seen Shazam like twice.
The one that
What the
reminds Shazam was really good.
Shazam
Fury
was
of the
good.
Gods wasn't. The one that I remembered there when you mentioned swords was that Glamdring, Gandalf's sword, is in the throne in Game of Thrones.
Oh, so it is, that's
Oh,
right.
That's
Yeah,
really cool.
See, I think we stuff like that I just love.
Apparently,
It's so
Viggo Mortensen took his sword from Lord of the Rings and then appears in another movie. I just can't remember what the movie is.
Ah.
Used it to kill his neighbourhood.
Why would they do that?
Dog shite.
Sounds like a good film, to be
I
fair.
can't remember the movie that he has it in, but I just remember someone, like, it was one of those ones you flip through TikTok and it's like, did you know? And they tell you some random fact.
It's always that weird robot voice.
Yeah.
Aye.
And more often than not, it's telling me that Viggo Mortensen broke his toe when he kicked the
They
helmet.
kicked the helmet. Aye. To be fair, I think it was multiple toes.
Was it?
And I think
thought
that's
it
when he
was
lets out the scream. Apparently, it was actual pain.
Seen a belter for Lord of the Rings. It was the picture of all the Fellowship together. It's like the Fellowship at 100% power, and then it's a one underneath it, and it's the Fellowship at 95% power, and it's just Viggo Mortensen and Sam.
Aye.
I can't remember his name. He's actually Aragorn
and Sam. Aye.
That's fucking brilliant.
Aye, that's good. It's very, very true.
Aye.
I caught a glimpse as well today, and we'll no doubt finish on this, but it was from Clerks 2, and it was Brando having the argument with the Lord of the Rings fans.
Yeah.
There's only one trilogy, there's only one return, and it's not of the King, it's of the Jedi, and they get into the thing, and he acts out all the Lord of the Rings films, and he just walks, and then at the end of it, he just goes, it's absolutely brilliant. I am a big Lord of the Rings fan though, so I do disagree, Randall.
Just on that one, just talking about like the random like memes that you saw. One of my favourite ones has always been, well, actually two. Sorry, because I just remembered another one. One of them is Sam, but it's doing the line like basing it off of like, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. It's, I can't throw the ring in for you, but I can throw you.
I always loved the thing is as well, the potatoes argument he's having with Gollum. And it's like, I mean, boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. Who's making potato stew?
I put tatties in a stew.
Aye, but he makes it sound like it's a potato stew.
Potato stew.
Well, it probably was for them, but
Aye, maybe, aye.
they don't really have much.
Maybe hobbits are vegetarians.
Well, they use lamb's bread.
Oh no, I'm loving that. On that bombshell, shall we end?
Yes.
Lamb's bread. Nah.
Thank you very much.
Especially that last bit if you've managed to
Oh,
this
aye.
episode.
If it doesn't get edited out. Cheers, guys.
that last bit. Bye.